Hi guys, welcome. My name is Brittany Werner and I am one of the WAG nutrition coaches, and today I'm here going live to talk to you guys about family meal planning and just basically how to manage it all with a family. I'll talk a little about me to get started while we wait for some people to trickle in. Like I said, my name is Brittany Werner and I'm a mom of three. I have three little girls, and I have a pretty long background in nutrition. I have a bachelor's degree in dietetics and a master's degree in human nutrition, both from Marshall University. I worked as a dietitian, a clinical dietitian, for 13 years before coming to WAG, so I have a long history with nutrition. How I came to WAG, like I mentioned earlier, I have three kids. I have three girls. They were all born within 5 years of each other, all single pregnancies. So I had three babies in 5 years, which was fantastic, and I was so thankful and happy to be able to do that. However, that really took a toll on my body. And even though I had this, wealth of knowledge about nutrition and really felt like I had all the tools in my toolbox to help myself, I was coming up against this wall where I just couldn't make any progress with myself, and I found WAG and decided that I needed a third party to come in and really objectively look at my nutrition and tell me what I was doing right, what I was doing wrong, and I started working with Hillary Rizzer, and she's still my coach today, almost 2 years later. So I still check in with her weekly. I have gone from, strict macro counting to a little bit looser counting, to intuitive eating, and now just completely back to strict macro counting as we're, just reaching new goals as we go along. So that's sort of my background with WAG. When it comes to family meal planning, and this is just because I called it family meal planning, this can definitely work for someone who's just prepping food for themselves as well. I want to put forth this big disclaimer that there's obviously more than one way to do things, and hopefully as this talk goes on, if you guys have things that have worked for your family or things that you've seen that have worked, throw them in the comments. I would love for this to be an open discussion of things that have worked for you. What I'm going to do is talk about things that have worked for me and things that have worked for my clients that I know have worked, and just sort of give you a general background. What I find a lot of times, especially with new folks, is we're busy. Everyone's busy. And when you're running a family, you're even busier, right? And what I'm finding is people will say, hey, I'm stressed from work. I'm stressed from life in general, taking care of this, taking care of that. And now all of a sudden I have to dedicate a lot of energy to something that I've never had to dedicate energy to really before, which is my nutrition. And as you guys know, when you're first starting out, the macro counting is really front loaded with effort. It takes a lot in the beginning to really figure it out. And then as time goes on, it exponentially gets easier, right? But so it sort of freaks people out sometimes, and that happened to me as well. It's like, I don't have time to figure this out. Like, this is crazy. And slowly you do. And what I hope to provide you with today is just some hacks to sort of make it easier for you. Some ways that I have found to cut corners, make things easier, cut down on my time that I'm prepping, time that I'm cooking. I don't particularly enjoy cooking. So for me, anything that I can do to make it faster, that's what I'm going to try to give you with, leave you with today. There certainly are days when you have time to make this special, really interesting, intricate meal. I'm not talking about those days today. Today we are going to talk about the days when just your average every weekday when things are busy and you need to get moving. So let's talk. I'm going to go, I have my notes here, guys. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk to this screen all day and just chat with you. So I'm going to go through breakfast, lunch, and dinner, talk about some snacks, how I manage all of that, how I've seen other clients successfully manage all that while cooking food for themselves as a macro counter and for their family. And then at the end, I just want to throw in a little tiny piece about creating good, healthy relationships with your food, healthy relationships with your children and their food, and just how to sort of bridge that gap when your child asks, oh, mommy, why are you weighing all of your food? Or why are you eating that? Those are some unique questions that I just want to tackle. So let's start off with breakfast. I think breakfast is the most overlooked meal to prep. I think a lot of people were just like, breakfast, I eat the same thing every day, whatever, easy breezy. If you I don't want to say mess up, but if you end up eating something that's completely off your plan on breakfast, it's going to throw off the whole rest of your day. It's one of those things where start the day off with a good task, start the day off with a good meal, all right? If your house is anything like mine, it is straight crazy in the mornings. There are 5 different people that need to get 5 different places at my house in the morning, and they all need to eat, and it can get really overwhelming. So here's what I do. I eat Kodiak cakes in the morning, most mornings. What I do is I put them in the waffle maker. I pre-make them. I will spend a day, a month maybe, and you guys, I make dozens of them. Dozens and dozens and dozens of them. In the waffle maker, I make mine with egg whites, make them up, put them in the waffle maker, and I freeze them. And I know the carbs and protein, and I'll write it on the bag. I freeze them, and then when I'm ready, in the morning, boop, I pop 2 of them out of the freezer. I put them in the waffle iron. I leave it open, put them in the waffle iron just to warm up, flip them over. They're good to go. They're done. I don't have time to make pancakes in the morning when I have all these kids needing to go other places, but it's pre-made and it's done. Another thing that I will do for myself is a breakfast casserole. Just really simple with eggs, egg whites, turkey sausage, low-fat cheese, and I throw as many veggies as I have. Like if I have a lot of veggies that are in the fridge and they're dying and they need to be used, I chop them up and throw them in a breakfast casserole. Figure out the macros on that, and there you go, it's done. And I'll divide it into portions, write the macros on the bag, freeze it, or stick it in the fridge if I'm going to eat it the next few days, and it's done. There's my breakfast done. I don't have to worry about it. If I didn't do that, I could very easily end up just eating a bowl of Cheerios with my kids in the morning because I'm rushed for time. So that's how I do breakfast. I have 2 things that I eat routinely, and I think most of us kind of stick to the same things at breakfast, and that's how I do it. It's done. I have no excuse when I'm there in the morning and things are going crazy and babies are crying and husbands are late for work and I need to get here and the bus is coming for the big kids. I have no excuse because my food is ready. I just have to heat it and eat it, right? So, breakfast. Lunch. So for lunch, I work from home, obviously, because I am a WAG coach. So for me, I don't necessarily need to prep my lunch ahead of time, but I do it. For me, like I said, I don't really love being in the kitchen. So for me, it's easier just to prep things ahead of time. I make my children's lunch and I make my husband's lunch. So I might as well just go ahead and make mine as well. That's how I look at it. So what I do on Sundays are my meal prep day. A big chunk of that time is spent prepping lunch. I think that's backwards from what I hear a lot of other people spend a lot of time prepping dinner. I don't do it that way. I spend a lot of time prepping lunch. I train earlier in the day, so for me lunch is my macro heavy meal. So when I am prepping lunches for my kids, I go ahead and they pretty much basically have the same thing. For lunch, they'll get a sandwich, chopped up veggies with some hummus, some type of fruit, some kind of cheese as a snack, maybe a salami stick, something like that. I go ahead and I have all of that chopped up Monday through Friday, done. In my refrigerator, I bought a second refrigerator for this. So in my refrigerator in the garage, I have 3 shelves, 1 for each kid. All of their stuff is lined up Monday through Friday. So all I have to do in the morning is I go in there, 3 bags, boop, 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 put it all in there. And then I make the sandwich fresh. I do the same thing with my husband's lunch. Like I said, I'm already prepping stuff, so I might as well do mine as well. For me, I might not have everything that day to prep because I eat a lot of leftovers for lunch. But what I'll do is I always have some sort of vegetable, raw veggies with my lunch. So I'll go ahead, like I chop them up for the kids. I'll do that for myself. have them labeled. I take a black marker and just write the macros on there, or write, 150 grams of carrots. So that way I know when I put it in my fitness pal, that's what it is and it's done. I want my whole plan when it comes to meal planning and prepping is to make it as easy and fail proof as possible. If I have wiggle room, I'm going to wiggle out of it. I want it to be, okay, my day is really busy. I have to be here. I have to be there. I don't have time. No problem. It's ready. It's there. I pull it out of the fridge. So that's what I do for my family for lunch. And then I'll talk a little bit about my lunch when I get to dinner. So with dinner, I do not pre-prep all of my dinner. What I do is I pre-prep all of the protein. What I found a lot of times is, bless you guys, you really want to do well, but you make it too hard on yourself, especially when you're really starting. Think simple. Basic, basic, basic. Don't overthink it. Don't think that you have to make some elaborate recipe that has 10 different ingredients and try to figure out the macros and the weight of the meat cooked versus the weight of the meat uncooked. Just, especially when you're first starting, just keep it really simple. So I think of it in 3 categories. I need a protein, I need a vegetable, and I need a starch. I don't worry about the fat because the fat's going to be in there, and if I need to add fat on at the end, I just throw in some butter or some olive oil in the pan. So I don't stress about the fat when I'm planning. But on Sundays, I pre-prep all of the protein because for me, that's what takes the most time, and that's the center of the meal for us. So I have an Instapot, and usually I put 10 chicken breasts in the Instapot for the week. That'll probably do us 2 meals of chicken plus some extra. Now that it's summer, I do a lot of grilling. On Sundays, you'll think I'm cooking for a whole neighborhood. It's just for us. I grill up steak. I will grill fish. And usually I put some shrimp. I'll broil some shrimp. So I usually have chicken, steak, fish, either whitefish or salmon, and some sort of shrimp. Now, only 4 meals. Why? Because we're going to have leftovers. Whenever I cook a meal, I double cook. Always. No matter what it is. Because if I'm taking the time to cook the meal for my family, I'm going to make it times 2. And either keep it in the refrigerator or put it in the freezer for a later date. It doesn't take any extra work if you're making one to make more. For example, tonight we're having meatloaf. My husband really likes meatloaf, so we're having meatloaf, and I made 2 of them. I prepped 2 of them. One of them I have gone ahead and cooked, and it's cooling now, and I'm going to wrap it up and put it in the freezer for probably next week. But the other one I'm going to make fresh. That way it's done. I know the macros on it, and I have a meal ready to go for next week. It's ready to rock and roll. No stress. So, like I said, I pre-prep all the protein, so that block is done. I have 3 blocks in my mind, right? I have my protein, my starch, and a vegetable. Second, for the vegetable, I am a big fan of frozen veggies for lots of reasons. 1, they're easy. And 2, I can buy a whole bunch of them and stick them in the freezer and pull them out when I need them. Fresh vegetables in my house, not unless I buy them when I'm going to prep, it just takes so much time. When I'm making probably 10 meals on a Sunday, for me personally, it just takes a lot of time to chop everything up. You're getting the same nutrients from frozen vegetables. The taste sometimes is a little off, but you're getting the exact same nutrients from the frozen veggies, so don't stress about that. I buy big bags of like the Asian mixed vegetables. I'll buy big bags of the mixed veggies with broccoli and squash and peas, all of them. Every week there's a different bag, or every meal it's a different bag of veggies that are coming out of the freezer. So that's my second block, easy done. What I do with those is I simply just put them on a pan, put a tiny bit of olive oil, some salt and pepper, and I roast them. Easy breezy, done. So my protein is already pre-prepped. I just have to pull that out of the freezer, right? Or pull it out of the fridge because I prepped that for the week. The veggies are in a bag, just got to pull those out. Now we think about the starch or the fluff item. White rice is a hit. It's super easy to do. Like I said, I have an Instapot that makes that white rice really easy, or if you have a rice cooker. Quinoa, couscous, sometimes we'll do white potatoes. That for me takes a little bit of time, so I don't really go for those so much. White potatoes, sweet potatoes, that type of thing. Keep it simple. Think protein. Think about that first. Protein, starch, veggie. And if I have macros left over, our dessert in our house is always fruit. So I always have some sort of fresh fruit on hand. Right now we've been doing watermelon or cherries. We'll do fresh pineapple. Always the dessert in my house is fruit. And that's what we do. So that's how our dinner rolls. Let's see. What I think is so important, and what I hear from a lot of folks is they say, and someone mentioned it in the comments when I listed that this was going to be the topic, someone said, oh gosh, I just feel like by the time I cook my kids' meal and my husband's meal, and by the time I'm finished weighing and prepping my meal, the food is cold. Here's the thing, guys. 90% of the time, we all eat the same thing. I think that sets up some weird feelings about food when you're eating something different than your children and your spouse is eating. I think for a lot of times then your kids are thinking, well, why is mom eating something different? What's wrong with what I'm eating that you can't eat this? So I make it a real effort to work into my macros that I'm eating the same thing that they're eating 90% of the time. Sometimes my husband will want to order Indian or order Thai food that I just don't have the carbs for. And then I'll make something different, and then I'm pulling a leftover out of the fridge. It's easy. But 90% of the time we're eating the same things because I'm eating protein, vegetables, and a good healthy starch. That's something my kids can eat. And I know that because my kids are young, I have a lot more influence over what they eat. If you have a teenager who can make their own food, I'm sure it's a little more difficult. But for my little people, it's easy. I put on their plate what we've made, and if they don't like it, they go to bed. Sorry. But they're not going to let themselves starve. So that's how I work it. Pre-prep that protein. It's done. That's what takes the most amount of time is the protein, right? If you have the protein prepped, the veggies take 10 minutes in the oven and you open a bag, and then you just add the starch to it. It's easy, easy breezy. Sure, there are times when I make a more complicated recipe, but most of the time I keep it really simple because that is the way that I can ensure that I'm going to have a well-rounded meal that fits my macros and feeds my family. So that's how I do it. Let's talk about snacks really quickly. This is where I hear not only from parents but from people in general when something gets thrown into the mix that throws your day off, and then it's like, oh man, the end of the world has happened because now I'm here at the baseball field for 5 hours. I'm starving. There's nothing to eat. I have to go to the concession stand because I'm legitimately hungry, and I ended up eating a hot dog, and then it threw everything off, right? That's happened to everyone, and so I'm going to give you my fail-proof of how not to let that happen. Someone asked, I have 3 girls, and their ages 6, almost 5, and almost 2. So, like I said, I have a really big influence over what they eat because they can't cook for themselves yet. So, it's a lot easier for me. So, what do? Just like you guys who are parents know this, when your kids are really small, you are bringing snacks everywhere, right? Because if they have a fit, those little goldfish crackers will just, whoop, shut them right up, right? So, you bring snacks everywhere. Excuse me, I do the same. I do not leave my house without something, like a fail-proof snack in my bag. For my kids, yes, but also for me. A million things can happen in the day to derail you, and you need to be prepared. RX bars are really great for that. I really enjoy them. There's lots of good flavors, they're good whole ingredients. I always have some of those in my bag, and I have this little cooler. People laugh at me. I don't care. I have this little cooler that I take everywhere. In there, I will always have some type of protein shake, like one of the pre-canned ones, Muscle Milk Light or Pure Protein. Those are ones that I can get really easily at the store here that are pre-made up. I'll always have those in the cooler, and some type of protein, like a light string cheese, some deli meat, something like that, and then a piece of fruit for a carb, banana, apple, something like that. Always. Now, if I'm just going down to the store and I'll be back in 5 minutes. I don't do that. But if we're going to some sort of event where we're going to be there an hour plus, I always have that in the car or bring it with me because it never fails. You know, your kids end up seeing some other kids and they want to hang out and play, and you can't, I mean, you could, but you don't want to be that mom that says, no, you can't hang out and play with your friends. I need to go home and eat my macros, you know? So bring this stuff with you. You have to be prepared. You have to bring that stuff because it's going to happen. And I think it happens more regularly to us that have little people's lives to manage too. And you find yourself, like I said, this fall, I was at the stinking soccer field a lot. And if I wouldn't have had my food with me, I would have been over there eating the weird taco in a bag thing that they served and hot dogs because I was hungry and had been there for 3 hours. You have to make it as hard as possible for you to fail. Bring things with you because that way when stuff, a wrench gets thrown into your plan, which is bound to happen, you have food and you're good to go. So let people talk. Bring your cooler with you. It's important. Same thing at work. You know, those of you, I mean, mine's a little easier because I work at home, but those of you guys at work, have a little stash of stuff. Have some bars, have some protein shakes, some jerky, some stuff that's there. If you end up working late or whatever's happening, you have something there. And I also, for women, it's a little easier because we have a purse. We lived in the Metro DC area for a while, and I would always end up like stuck in some massive traffic jam and be starving, and I would be so happy that I had my little RX bar in my bag or something that I've already pre-planned into my day. And then if I don't end up needing it, I just take it out and I get to eat a little more at dinner. All right? So just to sort of recap how I plan out the day, and if you guys missed it in the beginning, please, if you have things that work for your family really well, there's obviously more than one way of doing things, so stick it in the comments here. I would love to have as many ideas as possible. I'm sort of going through how I structure my day to feed a family and for me on my macros, and how I've seen other clients really succeed. So for lunch, I'm eating leftovers a lot of times of what was for dinner the night before. Like I said, when I cook a dinner, I'm always double cooking it. I know what my family of 5 needs. I always double that because I'm going to eat this meal this week and we're going to eat it next week too. I think most of us have a repertoire of 5 to 7 meals that we eat pretty regularly. So if you know you're going to probably have it next week or the week after, why not double cook it and have it done? I always pre-prep the protein because that's what takes the most time, and then you can do the sides really easily on top of that. So last thing I want to touch on, and this might sound a little fluffy, but I think it's important. Now that when you guys do bag, I think it was for me, an eye-opening experience to see how much what you put into your body, what you eat, how that affects so many different aspects of your health, right? I have a master's degree in human nutrition, and I still learn things when it comes to how different foods that I eat at different times in the day, how it affects my health, how it affects your well-being. So for me, that food is really the most important thing that I am doing for self-care during the day. Bottom line, that's it. That is the most important thing that I'm doing. Obviously, if that's the most important thing I'm doing for myself, that is the most important thing I'm doing for my children. Obviously, we want our children to grow up to be healthy, strong individuals and also develop a really good, solid relationship with food and body image. As a mother of 3 girls, I'm really conscious about this body image thing, but you want them to grow up with a good, strong relationship with food. I don't ever just want to halfway do their food because, again, now we know how much food affects everything that we do and how it affects all of our systems. When you care and love someone so much, why would you not put all the effort you could into that for them? So I'm not perfect by any means, and my kids have certainly eaten their fair amount of fast food here and there, but what I really, I don't want to say never, but what I try my hardest never to do is to say, man, I'm just so super busy today, I can't do it. I drive through McDonald's and throw some food in the back of the car. I am taking what's most important in making them healthy, and I'm just saying, whatever, I don't have time today, sorry kid. Like that for me, that's my hard line. And that is when I think about fueling my body, it's also important to fuel their little bodies, and it's so important to eat together as a family. I know you guys have heard this, and I know life is crazy. I know, I get it. My husband's in the military. A lot of times he's not home for dinner, so it's the kids and me. And it would be a lot easier for me to turn on Paw Patrol and put them in front of the TV, and then I could have a moment of quiet to myself. But what's so important is to break bread together. Make that a family routine, and all of you eating good, healthy, nutritious food together. That is going to stick in their little brains for a long time, and that is going to, all of a sudden, there's going to be positive memories that come with those Brussels sprouts and carrots and quinoa that you're making them eat. You want positive feelings around food. When you think about other cultures in the world, that's their prime family time is breaking bread together. And for some reason, a lot of Western culture, we have gotten into that this family gathering time is a time of self-destruction. You know, we end up having a family gathering, a big, for a holiday or a family reunion, and people are bringing the most unhealthy foods, and you're having 17 different pies there on the table. And what I really, in my family, try to flip that on the side and say, when we're having our family time and we're sitting together, we are eating food that is going to fuel our body. It's going to make us as healthy as we can be, because the end goal here for me is I want to see my great-grandchildren. I want to do this. Like, I want to live a long, healthy life. Yes, I want to look better in my clothes and be healthier and be stronger, but at the end of the day, I want to live longer, and I want my kids to have a long, healthy life. So that's where it all comes into. I could talk about this forever, but I just thought it was important to stick that in here. So a few questions. Do you put the frozen veggies right into the oven? I put them right into the oven. I think sometimes people think that makes them kind of limp and gross, but I like them. I stick them right into the oven, but I roast them. So I turn the heat on really, really high, tiny bit of olive oil. Usually if I do a whole bag of veggies, I'm doing half a teaspoon of olive oil. You don't need much. I think a lot of times we think we really have to coat it up. I have like starvation macros right now. I only have 44 grams of fat, I think, so I don't have room for all that olive oil. So just a tiny bit of olive oil. I put a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, toss them, stick them in the oven to roast, and then about midway through, about 5 minutes into it, I'll toss them, and they're good to go, and they end up just a little bit of crunchy, and they're great. Another way you can do it, if I'm really pressed on time, I'll put veggies in water, and I'll boil them in the microwave. They don't taste as good, but if I'm really pressed for time, that way I get some vegetables on the table. Sorry guys, the sun is coming in this room. There we go, that's a little better. Okay, so I think that's it. Hopefully I didn't talk too fast, and hopefully you guys got some good information out of this. Again, as I say, there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? There's more than one way to do this, but this is what has worked for me and my family of 5. Over the past 2 years of me macro counting. And this is also, I threw in some things that I've had clients who have really been successful with prepping food for their family. You certainly don't have to prep everything ahead of time. Like I said, I don't prep my sides ahead of time. It's only the protein, and that way it's good to go. And don't forget about breakfast. Prep that breakfast. Have it ready. The Kodiak cakes heat up really, really well. There's no problem there, and the egg scramble does really well too, so it's easy breezy. Okay guys, if no one else has any questions, I know this is sort of in the middle of the day on a Friday, so those of you guys who are watching, thank you so much for tuning in. The video will stay up on the Facebook wall, so if anybody has any questions or comments about what I was chatting about, I'll be happy to answer them there. So with that, thank you so much, guys. This was my first Facebook Live, so I was really, really nervous. Thank you for watching, and have a great weekend. Bye, guys.